Putin abandons Lukashenko. Angry crowds ignite Belarus crisis. This shocking twist in Eastern Europe has sent waves across the geopolitical landscape, sparking fears of instability, rebellion, and even the collapse of one of Russia's closest allies. The story begins with whispers from Moscow that Vladimir Putin, long considered the lifeline of Alexander Lukashenko's rule in Belarus, may finally be stepping back, leaving Lukashenko isolated as angry crowds fill the streets of Minsk. The protests are no longer just small gatherings, they are growing louder and more determined, raising questions about whether Belarus is entering its most dangerous chapter yet. Hello everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor channel. Please subscribe to my channel and stay with us as we uncover this breaking situation where Putin appears to distance himself from Lukashenko, while the people of Belarus challenge his authority like never before. To understand this moment, let us look at the exterior of the crisis, the part the world sees on the surface. On the outside, Belarus seems calm under Lukashenko's strong grip. State media still projects an image of control, with officials promising stability and labeling protesters as foreign agents. But in reality, the exterior is beginning to crack. Crowds have flooded squares, chanting for freedom and denouncing both Lukashenko and Moscow's shadow over Belarus. The imagery of angry citizens waving flags and demanding change has become the new face of Belarus abroad. Just like the exterior of a product that draws attention, Belarus's outward appearance is now one of unrest, instability, and challenge, and the world is watching closely to see if the nation's outer shell can hold under pressure. Now if we look inside, the interior, the situation is even more fragile. Behind the walls of government buildings, panic is growing. Lukashenko's circle of loyalists is shrinking, trust is eroding, and rumors are spreading that Moscow is no longer willing to fully back the Belarusian leader. Diplomats whisper of quiet negotiations, generals question the chain of command, and ordinary families talk about whether their future lies in Belarus or outside its borders. The interior of this crisis is fragile, vulnerable, and filled with cracks that could quickly expand into total collapse. Performance is another way to measure the Belarus crisis. Lukashenko has long advertised his government's ability to perform as a strong state, suppressing dissent, maintaining order, and relying on Russia's deep pockets and political influence. But now the performance is faltering. The economy is under strain from sanctions, businesses are suffering, and inflation is eating into people's daily lives. The protests themselves are proof that the government's performance rating is dropping. Like a machine once known for stability, Belarus's leadership is now sputtering, struggling to convince both citizens and allies that it can keep running. And for Putin, whose global image depends on showing strength, the declining performance of his ally creates a risk he may not want to carry any longer. Safety features in this context refer to the mechanisms designed to protect Lukashenko's rule. In the past, his safety features were simple but effective: Russia's backing, a loyal police force, and a fear-driven society where protests were swiftly crushed. But those safety measures are failing. Russia appears reluctant to spend more political capital or military resources on defending Lukashenko. The police are overwhelmed by the scale of demonstrations, and fear is no longer keeping people off the streets. Instead, bravery is spreading through the crowds as safety nets collapse. Without Moscow's iron shield and with security forces stretched thin, the Belarusian system looks exposed. If this were a product, its safety features are outdated, unreliable, and failing to protect it against the forces pressing from outside and within. Every system has unique selling points, and for decades, Lukashenko's unique selling point was his claim that Belarus was stable, orderly, and a secure partner for Russia against Western influence. He sold the idea that only his leadership could keep Belarus from becoming another Ukraine or another unstable state in Eastern Europe, but today that unique selling point is collapsing. Instead of stability, Belarus is seen as a powder keg. Instead of order, it is chaos, and instead of being a loyal ally, it has become a burden that Moscow may not want to carry. The very argument Lukashenko used to maintain power is now turning against him, as people ask whether his leadership brings safety or only danger. And what about the price? The cost of Lukashenko's continued rule is rising every day. For ordinary Belarusians, the price is paid in lost freedoms, economic hardship, and the risk of violence. For Russia, the price is measured in international sanctions, strained resources, and reputational damage from being tied to an unpopular dictator. Putin has to weigh whether paying this price is worth it, when his own country is already heavily invested in the war in Ukraine and struggling with its own sanctions. For the West, the price comes in the form of balancing support for democracy with the risk of escalating tensions with Moscow. The Belarus crisis is proving that the price tag of Lukashenko's survival may simply be too high for everyone involved. Finally, the conclusion. The unfolding drama in Belarus shows us that when an old political system runs out of performance, when its safety features no longer work, and when its unique selling points collapse, the price of keeping it alive becomes unsustainable. Angry crowds in Minsk are not just protesting, they are rewriting the story of Belarus. Putin's apparent abandonment of Lukashenko signals that even Moscow may be preparing for change. The conclusion is clear. The Belarus crisis is not just a local uprising, it is part of the wider conflict over Eastern Europe's future, and its outcome could reshape the balance of power across the region. This moment in history is like watching a product at the end of its life cycle. The exterior is damaged, the interior is weak, the performance is broken, the safety features are gone, the unique selling points no longer convince, and the price is too high. For Lukashenko, the conclusion is that his time may be running out. For Putin, the choice is whether to risk more in protecting a failing ally or cut his losses and move on. For the people of Belarus, the conclusion is one of hope, that after years of control, their voices might finally be strong enough to change the future of their country. The crisis in Belarus reminds us that no leader, no matter how strong they appear, can survive forever without real support from the people. Lukashenko has leaned on Putin for decades, but if Putin steps back, he will be left to face the storm alone. And this storm, fueled by anger, determination, and desperation, may prove stronger than any ruler's grip. The world now waits to see whether this moment becomes the turning point that changes Belarus forever.